Harry Benjamin and sexual inversion. Now, I'm Rod Fleming and I'm in the Philippines. This is not something that would normally come up in discussions about the Philippines, because nobody here had ever heard of Harry Benjamin. Now, Harry Benjamin was a doctor, an MD, a medical doctor, GP that we call in Britain. And he, during the 1960s, he did a lot of work with transitioners, and he developed a scale called the Benjamin scale, which I'll put up, which attempted to classify the males who were transitioning to the presentation of being women. Now, Benjamin has to be given the credit of being very early down this track, and he did do a lot of good. In fact, what is now called the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or WPATH, was originally the Harry Benjamin organization, I think. It was originally his name. The problem is, and this is a problem that is reflected in WPATH, is that Benjamin didn't understand the difference between autogynephilic transvestites and homosexual transsexuals. Right? He just didn't understand it. So he's busy calling both types transsexual, which if you read his, and I'll put it up as I say, and a link to where you can download it. If you read his scale, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's only when you understand that some girls are sexual inverts, that is, they were affected in the womb by hormonal anomalies which have permanently changed them. And some of the transitioners are actually men who are autoerotic fetishists. Right? Now, this is a really big difference. Even if they say, oh well, I'm really homosexual, often, an awful lot of gays, people who call themselves gays in the West, they're actually autogynephilic. They're not homosexuals at all. Well, they just aren't. And they're busy telling you all these porkies partly because they're lying, and partly because they don't understand the difference. And this was not helped by people like Benjamin using the word transsexual to describe both types. Or later, what happened was that, I guess about the same time, but into the 70s, when this started to get coverage, people started to think, well, if you've had a particular kind of surgery, particularly, what's called genital reconstruction surgery, in which the penis is inverted and turned into a pseudo-vagina, then that makes you a transsexual, right? This is bollocks. This is total nonsense, but it's what was thought. And it's even thought by people like Ray Blanchard, and you go, Ray, please. Ray at least managed to define two groups, and he managed to say, well, there's homosexual transsexuals, and then he made this like there's non-homosexual transsexuals. Well, that's an impossibility. That is like an oxymoron. You can't have a non-homosexual transsexual. If you're transsexual, then you are by definition homosexual. That's what you are. You're the extreme form of sexual inversion. You're the most complete form of sexual inversion. There's mild, it goes like this. It goes from mild sexual ambivalence that you might call genuine bisexualism, which is actually quite rare because usually they just live as guys, and then it goes right up through homosexual, feminine homosexual, and then you get to transsexual. At the top, they are the most complete form, and as Blanchard himself said, if a feminine homosexual is 6 on Kinsey, homosexual transsexuals are 7 or 8. And actually, although I think Kinsey's a fucking idiot, just an academic bully who should never have been allowed to influence anyone because his methodology was appalling. Never mind, I've done stuff on that. Ray Blanchard's statement is absolutely 100% accurate. If you take the most feminine homosexual you can imagine and then say, no, just take it up another 2 notches, then you probably end up somewhere near what an actual transsexual looks like and acts like and is. It's completely person who is male, but absolutely, completely feminine in every way. Both in terms of the way she looks, the way she acts, the way she speaks, in terms of her morphology, body morphology, all of that. They form a very distinct class in all of these parameters. And of course, they're all man-mad from childhood. They're crazy about men. They just want men. And men are, a source of affirmation, they're a source of love, obviously, which everybody needs. They are a source of finance, but most of all, it's the success, it's the affirmation, it's the, I am a beautiful woman. Look at my husband. Is he a cool guy or what? You know? That's what it comes to. And they just love, you know, I don't like to get banned by YouTube, but they absolutely love penises. It's like, they're crazy about cock. It's like, wow. You know, and when you talk to them, I mean, they exaggerate. They're like, oh, his one is such a huge. It's like, like that. I mean, it probably isn't, you know, but then her mind, it gets bigger, you know, and more powerful, because as far as they're concerned, a man's penis is actually the source of his power. So the bigger it is, the more powerful you are, you know, and that's not at all unique to Southeast Asia, believe me. So going back to this business of Benjamin, the problem with Benjamin is this absolute absence of any understanding of the dichotomy which exists between homosexual transsexuals and non-homosexual transitioners. I'm not going to make the mistake of calling them transsexual, who are actually, in fact, heterosexual males. They're attracted to women. They're attracted to femininity. It's just that their desire is autoerotic, so that they make themselves into the object of desire. So if they want a beautiful woman, they try to turn themselves into that beautiful woman. And sometimes they succeed. I mean, there are pageant queens here, definitely AGP, absolutely no question about it. And they are absolutely stunning. And you look at them and you go, my God, that woman is just beautiful. You know, she's 5'11", which makes her one seriously big Southeast Asian, and just everything is like, wow. And the way she moves, it's so studied, because they really work at this. You know, it's like, are you kidding? Are you actually kidding me? Because in the West we're quite used to tall women. I mean, an Asian's just going to go, ladyboy, instantly, because of the height, you know. Westerners are used to looking at tall women, so they're going to go, huh? Oh, are you sure? Isn't that just a very beautiful girl? No, it's not a beautiful girl. It's an autogynephilic transvestite who's got a very, very, very good woman suit on. Okay? She's really learned it. She knows how to do it. It's an act, it's a performance. I mean, all gender is performed. That's just the way it is. And, you know, if you don't understand that, then you understand nothing. All these people who say, well, sex and gender is the same thing. Bollocks it is. They're totally separate. You know, read Judith Butler on this. I mean, Judith Butler got plenty wrong because she was a feminard, and therefore, you know, completely crackpot. But she did understand the performative nature of gender, and she explained it extremely well, actually. These people, all trans women, are performing feminine gender. It's just that AGPs are like method actors, you know, and when they're in role they can be very convincing. But for HSTS, they're just really like women. You know, they're not actually aware that they're in performance. It's just them, that's what they're like. And I know this is difficult to understand, especially for a Westerner, but it is in fact the case. So the problem is that by conflating these two types, Benjamin had made a scale which, I mean, today you still find people using it. I mean, geez, 60 years later. And it's still nonsense. It's still just as much nonsense as it was then. Because you didn't allow for the fact that some of these people were actual transsexuals, that is, homosexual transsexuals. And some of these people were autogynephilic transvestites. That's to say, they were acting like women. Okay? There's just a complete difference. They're not the same. So I wanted to make that clear, and I want to make it very clear that, you know, I mean, I'm increasingly critical of autogynephiles in the West. Not so much here. I mean, here they're fine, usually. They occasionally get troublesome ones, but they're basically okay. You know, give you an example. There's no autogynephilic transvestite here who wants to compete in weightlifting against women. There's no autogynephilic transvestite here who wants to go and beat women up in a boxing ring. There's no autogynephilic transvestite here who wants to compete in women's sports. No, that's not what it's about. They don't want to do that. They just want to be more beautiful than women. And to their credit, they manage it. And the thing is that when they do manage it, they get the affirmation. And affirmation is really important, particularly for AGPs. With an AGP, see, with a homosexual transsexual, let's go back to this one. With a homosexual transsexual, that is a true transsexual, a real transsexual. If you misgender her, well, she might be hurt. You know, she might go away and cry. You misgendered me. Oh, and all her friends will go, oh, don't worry, darling, you're okay. And she might do, you know, that kind of thing, but she will not grab the nearest ashtray and whack the guy around the head with it, which is exactly what an AGP would do. AGP autogynephiles have a thing called narcissistic rage, and as soon as you criticise their status, if you say, well, you sure you're a woman? Or if you take the GameStop boy, you say, an obvious guy with long hair walks into the shop, and the shop assistant, who's half asleep anyway, says, good morning, sir. And the person goes, that's absolutely fucking nuts. Throws a wobbly. No HSDS would ever do that. She might say, well, I'm sorry, I'm a girl, you know. And that would be it, it would be over. An AGP will not only have a huge fight, and in fact there are videos on YouTube of AGPs attacking women whom they say misgendered them. I mean, they look about as feminine as that, but never mind. Not only that, they will continue the attack, sometimes for years. I mean, I'm at the moment a recipient of an ongoing narcissistic rage attack from a guy called, what's his name? Paul. Can't remember his surname just now, it's not important enough. This has been going on for over a year. That he picks everything he can to try to harm me. You know, it's like, what is all this about? I mean, most people would go, fuck it, I'm sorry. You know, yeah, you pissed me off, but it's alright, you know. Move on. They won't. And this is a real problem because AGPs are dangerous. They get themselves in a position of power and then they'll use that power to harm people. You know, they will do their best to harm those whom they think don't absolutely totally believe the tissue of fabrication that they have created, that they are real women. And you go online, you'll see them saying this, oh, but we're actually real women. And you go, but you have XY chromosomes. How the fuck can you be a real woman? Can you have babies? Oh no, oh, we can't do that. Well, you're not a real woman. Yeah, and I know about the ones who are infertile. That's rare, very rare. This is like all autogynephilic transvestites. Not a single one of them can have a baby. Because they don't have a womb. And they're talking about, oh, but you know, I can menstruate. How the hell can you menstruate? I had one on reading the discussion the other week, and it was about this autogynephile, obviously, who was complaining that he had endometriosis. The endometrium is the lining of the womb, right? And it builds up over 28 days. And at the end of that time, if it hasn't been implanted with a fertilized ovum, then it breaks down, discharges, and it comes out as the woman's period. Now, men don't have any of this. They don't have wombs. They don't have uteruses. So how the hell could they have endometriosis? It's not possible. And yet these complete fruitcakes are busy, oh, no, men get, we get, trans women get endometriosis. Like, fuck you do. It's a total piece of garbage. It's all lies. And meanwhile, the little HSTS rather, the actual real, genuinely transsexual ones are sitting in the background going, oh, don't, oh, keep me out of this, I don't want to know. Huh, I don't have any of this. I'm a sweet person, I'm a peaceful person, I don't like trouble. They never like trouble. Whereas the ATPs are busy, you know what they're like, you see what they're like. You see what they're like, you know, physically assaulting Ben Shapiro on television. There is not an HSTS on the planet who would have done that. So, to kind of get back from my ramble, I was told the other day that I do enjoy rambling, which I do, but you don't have to watch it. I don't care, because YouTube is really just a hobby. The fact is that Benjamin and his scale is, don't use it, it's just too misleading. It doesn't really work. You have to actually separate the two types, and if you did separate the two types, then you could, you know, develop a scale of variation for sexual inversion, which leads, you know, from true bisexualism down here all the way up to, well, you know, being a trans woman, being actually HSTS up here. You know, that's an etiology that you could actually develop. For the thing is that AGPs are so varied. You know, there are so many different types, so many different factors involved. It's very difficult to do that. You know, they really are. You know, HSTS, they're like a discrete group. You can spot them right away. I mean, here where there's a lot, it's like, yeah. The other day, it's just somebody on my trying to tell this obvious AGP. Oh, that one's an HSTS. How the hell do you work that out? It's big. It's a bruiser, a typical great big masculine AGP bruiser in a dress. That is not a homosexual transsexual. To be homosexual transsexual, you must first be homosexual. And homosexual is both a physical and a personality type. It doesn't just mean that occasionally you have sex with men. That's totally misleading. That is not the point. The point is that a homosexual is a personality type. Of course, the gays in the West have been trying to get rid of this idea for years. Let's stop it now. Let's get back to the reality. If you're a homosexual, then you fall into certain categories of size, weight, behaviours, talents. Yeah, no, it's absolutely obvious. They could be dancers, could be anything, you know. That's homosexuals. And if you're one of those, then you could be a homosexual transsexual. You could end up, you could say, nah, fuck it, why should I be a man? I'm gorgeous. Let me be a woman. And they do it really well, which no AGP really will ever do. I mean, there's always something. I mean, she looks absolutely fantastic, but she's 6'2". To be fair, you do get tall transsexuals in the West. They do exist, but they're rare. I mean, for instance, my friend who's Dutch, the Dutch are, if you've ever been to Holland, you know, I'm quite a big guy, but it's like, well, where did all the giants come from? Seriously. So, in terms of her ethnicity, she's actually, you know, very petite. We're going to leave that to one side. That was enough raving just now. But Benjamin, just forget Benjamin, all right? Just don't go there. Forget it. It's going to mislead you. There are only two types of males who transition. I mean, I'm not talking about the impersonators or the guys who are just a little bit autogynephilic and they like to do it on stage and stuff like that. That's different. But who actually go all the way and who live as women rather, they fall into two types. There's homosexual transsexuals and autogynephilic transvestites. And that's it. Don't conflate them because they're not even slightly similar. Okay? So bye.